Dzień dobry. My name is Richard Bolstad, and many times over the last few years I have been training in Poland in the summer, and this year I want to tell you about a combination of trainings that I'm running in Warsaw. And this combination I'm calling the phrase book for human-to-human communication. Well, when I travel around the world, of course I use various phrase books. I have a Polish to English, English to Polish phrase book, and that's great for communicating, translating between two different languages. The problem that we face every day is that although we think we're talking to someone who actually speaks our language, things go strangely wrong sometimes. There are two parts to this phrase book that I want to invite you to. The first part is on the 5th to 6th of July, and this is called the Wheel of Change. And so this is a workshop for anyone who's involved in change. People who want to change themselves, people who want to change organizations, people who want to work individually as coaches, for example, helping other people to make changes. Now, in the past, usually when I teach people how to be doing coaching or how to work in organizations, what I've told them is, here's the kind of sequence of things that you go through. But actually, what I've learned over the years is that the problems that coaches have are not about the sequence of events that they need to do. The problems are with the people that they work with. So the problems are about the individual style of the person that you're working with. And what I want to do is I want to show you how different people have different styles of dealing with change. And there are people who focus on, for example, making things go back the way they were. They're really interested not in creating something new, but in putting things back the way that they were and getting everything to kind of harmonize together. And then there are people who like change and who like things to be different, and they don't want to agree with anything, including the ideas that they come up with and the processes that you're guiding them through. So those people require a very different kind of approach to get them to change. And then there are people who, they want to create new things, they're interested in new ideas, and they don't necessarily care how those ideas fit with the rest of their life. Well, that requires a different approach again. And finally, there are the people who are most of all thinking, how can I fit these new things back into my daily life so that it actually works in my daily life? Now, those four styles of change really fit into a kind of a wheel or a cycle of change that I'm calling the Wheel of Change. And I want to introduce you to that wheel and show you how you can use this to create change, not just individually, but in communities and organizations as well. I want to show you how it explains how people have responded to major social changes, like the kind of change that's still happening, of course, in Europe itself. Now, as we think about change, inevitably, some people get stuck in the process of change. And what I want to do is show you what is the difference between the people who are resilient, meaning they manage change and they kind of continue on almost from the outside as if nothing has happened, although they find it challenging, of course. Those people are resilient compared to the people who, at least temporarily, don't manage. So of those people who don't manage, some of them recover. So that's the structure that's called in psychology recovery. But then there are those people who have chronicity. That means they just go on being upset. They don't feel like they got the results they wanted out of the change process. And in fact, they never seem to get to the other side of change. So I want to show you especially how to work with people and organizations that have chronicity, that are stuck in the process of change. So this is going to be exceptionally useful, of course, if you're coaching or you're working with organizations. But if you're working just as a human being and you want to be able to make changes yourself, sometimes you wonder, what on earth is going on? How come I can't get the changes I want? Well, this is a workshop for you, or 2 days for you, and that's on the 5th and 6th of July. Now, from the 7th till the 10th of July in Warsaw as well, I want to introduce you to the Transforming Communication training, which I've run several times in Poland before. And I'm very excited to be running this training about communication and about cooperation in Europe at this time, when obviously the events of what's happened in the Ukraine are very recent, and people are asking themselves, I guess, how come we get this kind of conflict at this time in history still? How do we get out of this kind of conflict, and how do we make sure we don't get into this kind of conflict in future? Well, the answers, it seems to me, are not just relevant for something like a conflict internationally, they're the same answers that make sense in your personal relationships. Now, when we check CEOs, managers of organizations, and chief executives in organizations, we find that the number one reason why they're using coaching, and this research came from the Stanford Business School in 2013, and what they found is that the most important reason why CEOs and chief executives actually use coaching is to deal with conflict. And basically, by the time something gets to the CEO level, you know, there's some degree of conflict in every issue that they're dealing with. It hasn't been able to be resolved by other people because of the conflict. And enormous amounts of money, enormous hours of company time are being used up dealing with what is essentially an argument between two or more people. So I want to show you how to get over that and how to get people to create relationships that are effective, that enable cooperation. And in doing that, I'm going to show you some things that from the research we now know that we didn't know 20 years ago when I was first teaching these things. One of the things is that the first sentence that you say in a conflict affects the results of the conflict by 92%. So that means that if you say something that doesn't work in the first sentence, 92% of the time you can't pull back from it. So you need to work out exactly what you're going to say in that first sentence. And another thing I want to show you is that there's more than one kind of conflict. And if you've learned a model for dealing with conflict that is kind of a win-win model, a model where you find out what each person wants and you find some way of getting each person to get what they need, then that's great, except that from the research there are around 69% of conflicts where that doesn't work. So I'm going to show you what to do in those conflicts in a way that satisfies you and the other person, but is not the same as the ordinary kind of win-win conflict resolution that you might have heard of before. There are different kinds of conflicts, they require different skills. One of the craziest things, you know, is that coaches who work with individuals like those managers who said their key concern is conflict, those coaches often don't have any training in conflict resolution. In fact, what they know about is how to work with individuals. And those kind of skills are great if the individual is kind of autonomous, working by themselves, but if they're in an organization, you need more. So I invite you to come along to either of those trainings by themselves, and I'd love to see you there for the both of them, because together they do really make this great package, which is a kind of a communication skills translation book, so that you can quickly take this out of your pocket and work out, how do I communicate with this other human being who seems to be speaking my language and who sometimes does and says something that I didn't expect at all. Look forward to seeing you there in Warsaw this year.